Now, in spite of last year's 230% electricity tariff hike for Band A consumers, the National Council on Power, that's NAKOP, has proposed a nationwide cost-reflective tariff while advocating targeted and sustainable subsidies for vulnerable groups. In a communique issued at the end of the 6th meeting in Maiduguri, the council, chaired by Minister of Power Dayo Adelabu, resolved that distribution companies' discos must be recapitalized to address grid challenges and that capital expenditure in the sector should be increased. NAKOP also backed the construction of new double-circuit transmission lines to reinforce supply in the northeast and called for embedded generation along the northern corridor. The council urged stronger enforcement of technical standards through collaboration between national and state-level agencies and tasked the Nigerian Electricity Management Services Agency, NEMSA, to lead this effort. Polarized News analyst Dayo Sobowale joins us now to take a further look at the call by the National Council on Power for a new electricity tariff hike despite 230% surge for Band A customers and the need to balance fair pricing with improved service. Good afternoon, Mr. Sobowale. Many thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure being here, Sue.
Now, I don't know whether to call myself a customer or a victim of the Band A system, but this is one that really hits hard. What's your initial take on this proposal?
Yeah, all both.
Oh.
Both customer and victim. Mm-hmm. But the problem is not as alarming as the newspapers have portrayed it. These people were at the National Council on Power. They were at a conference, annual conference. This one holding in Maiduguri. I wonder why they went to Maiduguri, the center of all this struggle, of destruction, yes, of electricity lines and so on. And then next year they will go to Cross River State. So it's an annual conference festival, and they are projecting. We started the premise of creating the power generating, transmission and distribution companies on the premise that they will charge tax reflective tariffs. That has always been there. And I've always been looking for ways to improve since the time of Fachola, when he was Minister of Power. Yeah. But you see, massively, the National Assembly has always stopped them until of recent, when they increased it to 230%. So after that 230%, unless they want to kill industries, they cannot make. So they have said, let's look at these issues in context. They are at a conference, and the conference was given data by the Department of Research and Statistics. Mm-hmm. So they are projecting into the future. So don't let us have blood pressure. Now, I'm very doubtful that they will have another price hike after the 230%, which they said is cost reflective.
So you're saying there's nothing to worry about?
Yes, I'm saying that categorically. Unless, you see, the National Council on Power is energy and electricity, not political power. They cannot use electricity power to electrocute the president, who is in charge of political power. And you see, the National Assembly people, I praise them for that. They have always stood against these cost-reflective tariffs, because they say the people are not having service, they are not having power. Why are you increasing? But you see, the people who manage the sector, they were talking to stakeholders. You get to know, they need money to buy the equipment and make supply. But at the same time, if they don't have customers who can afford the tariffs, you have to get revenue. And this is coming to play somewhere in the country. Okay, I think generally the discourse, their revenues are dwindling because good customers have exited the grid to look for alternatives to power, that, so they don't commit economic suicide. Get me? And even in Enugu, I read somewhere, in Enugu, the regulatory authority has had the discourse there to refund money to people for estimate charging, you get me, for April and some months. And it's literally asking them to do that before they move on. So, and even then, this these dreamers at the Council of Power,
NAKOP.
these dreamers, they were bold enough to say that the cost reflective tariffs should come in, but that they must take care for vulnerable people and give them subsidies. So you can see that it's not that they want to terrorize anybody, but it's the media interpreting it as such. And I don't blame the media, because if they don't cry wolf now, the real wolf can come later.
Indeed. So we're just doing our job. But Mr. Sobowale, you know, you've touched on some of the major challenges facing the power sector, and they have proffered some solutions. For instance, they're calling for multi-agency collaboration to secure critical power infrastructure. And they are also saying that, you know, NEMSA should work with NERC, that's NEC, so that we can see more productive solutions to the issues bedeviling the power sector. But I also recall there's the Mambila infrastructure, also the Gurara, you know, several power infrastructures that are really not making any headway. Where exactly are we, and what do you think is the major solution to all of these challenges?
For service delivery. Like where they are holding it now, in the north, Maiduguri, that's my favorite town in the north. That is where the terrorists have been destroying the transmission lines. You see, and they are asking for power to be generated in the north. That's why they're talking of Mambila. So base there. But you see, they don't need to put power there. They should borrow a lift from China. Is bigger than Nigeria. When they supply electricity to their people, they call them high voltage power transmission lines. And they say they transmit power at the speed of Japanese bullet trains, fast speed to various areas. So you don't need to localize. You can. And I think you have the money to afford the technology. You get me? To buy high voltage transmission lines to supply our cities, our hinterlands, and so on. But then the problem of security is always there. And then again, they were calling states subnationals. When did we start calling our states subnationals? This is a colonial language. I don't like it. Indeed. We have government, federal government, and we have states in Nigeria, not subnationals.
Well said, Mr. Sobowale. Like your first term when you called them dreamers, then now really calling them out for saying subnationals. But Mr. Sobowale, the worrisome aspect I'd like you to address, if we have a moment, is are we not creating or getting comfortable creating a system where only the wealthy might be able to afford electricity while majority remain in darkness? Now electricity is becoming more or less a luxury.
I will say no.
Okay.
Not because it's not a policy or a deliberate strategy, but because Nigerians are defiant. They don't like being put under. Do you know, go to our markets, go to our street corners, you see generators bringing in power. Generators bringing in power. They don't depend on the national grid, but even now with the high cost reflective tariffs, they say they are parading. The network customers are living there and looking for alternate sources of energy. So, if somebody wants to create a society of the rich being rich and the poor being poor, it will not work in Nigeria, because Nigerians want to bridge the poverty gap by all means.
Well, you know, that's the argument of a lot of people who are against this classifying Nigerians into different bands, band A, band B, down to band E.
That's right. But you see, they are fooling themselves. The income, it's in the papers today, the income of the discos have dwindled because these people have gone to find alternative sources of energy. You know, there was a time I was saying, somebody at the National Assembly said that, what will the generator owners, what will they eat if NEPA is working well? You know, you are in that stage now. If NEPA is not working well, generator owners will flourish because people will use them to avoid economic suicide. It's as simple as that.
Okay.
Next question.
No, we're out of time, but I really appreciate this insightful analysis. I'm sure you appreciate it too, don't you? Thank you so much, Rising Analyst Mr. Dayo Sobowale, for joining us here on Newsday. Thank you.